As you know, India is a country where a lot of different gods are there. We have in official record 3,000 gods. Not one god, but 3,000 of them. One of the gods has 10,086 wives. It's an amazing, interesting world of gods. And one of the early texts of Indian knowledge or religion is the Vedas, which is mainly a fight between the gods and forces against the gods. But not like the god and the Satan in the Semitic concept, but really they're fighting for material things, for alcohol, for fire, for control on air. I mean, like in a contemporary world, they fought for each other, fought against each other, and all for material things. And of course, the gods helped some people down here on the earth, and their opponents were helped by the other people, and it was a kind of parallel fights going on in the other world and here. The opponents were opposed by the Asuras, and the people who were writing the ancient texts were supported by the Devas or the gods. The gods were Varuna, water god, the lightning as a god, and another god who would control the air, natural forces. That was how it all began. But when we come back around 3,500 years now to India, we see relics of the same kind of belief system prevalent everywhere. Go to any Hindu household, there will be a small prayer room. There won't be one single god, but a dozen of them. There is a god for letters and knowledge and wisdom, Saraswati. There is a god, special goddess, of course, for wealth and gold, Lakshmi. There is a god for creation, Brahma. And another god for preservation, Vishnu. Another god for destruction, but many people find him as a protector also, Shiva. Now Shiva's son has emerged, the elephant-faced boy, who is a great helper of people coming out from obstacles. Any kind of obstacle that you have to please Ganesha, the elephant god, elephant-faced god. You know, many people say that that was an earlier surgery because his father was very angry and cut off his head and put on fire. And then he could not get it back, so an elephant's head was taken and fixed. That's why we got it. But this elephant god travels on a mouse. Therefore, mouse is also very holy. You don't catch a mouse. We have a lot of mouse everywhere. Rats, in a way. We don't differentiate mouse and rat in India. There's only one word for both. And they're everywhere, troubling in homes. Many of them are caught, but no, you cannot kill them because over this travels Ganesh. So you take them down to the great main park and opens them and release them. It comes back again to your house and the cycle goes on. And in cities, when the forests are taken out, the monkeys in herd come and in search of food. In Delhi, for example, in an apartment where I stay, we have a beautiful, big, huge balcony. But some of the mornings I cannot come out. There must be 25 monkeys sitting there, because who lost their living place, their apartment they lost because somebody has cut away the tree. And they come and sit and look for the place. And if I open the door and go for 10 minutes, they would just march in, open my fridge and take away the food and go off. But nobody would chase them off. You cannot. Rather you feed them, because they symbolizes the monkey god Hanuman. And he was very important because he supported God Ram, an incarnation of Vishnu, was the pursuer of justice. And the Hindu party wants the kingdom of Ram to be established in India. That's the scenario we have. But not only them. In the last few years, we have started getting a lot of new gods, living gods. Very interesting that many people started finding that the gods like Shiva, Vishnu and all these people They've been praying to them, and it's like telephone conversation with nobody on the other side. They never respond. But the living gods really respond. They answer your questions, they give suggestions, and they really do some miracles to show how powerful they are. Some of them are very interesting. Like, he's the person who has been the first known powerful holy man in India, 1960s, Maharshi Mahesh Yogi. Why he became very popular was very simple. He got very strong disciples. You know the people, isn't it? Yeah. And he became almost a celebrity, not because of his capacities, but because of the popularity of his disciples. And he got a lot of money for a special technique that he started selling. And what was it? He started selling levitation. And people, he said, would fly and levitate and go off, and he can teach people to do that thing, but for a fee, of course. At the time it was $280 US for having the first session. Then of course advanced sessions would cost more money, and ultimately you will be given a special mantra. The mantra is a selection of few Sanskrit words. It could be simply like Om, Om, Kri. But he would make not a default mantra for anybody. He would make a special mantra for you. Look at you and assess you and write a special mantra for you. Then you are allowed to go to the cellar. And you get a small room to sit there. Then before that you are given a special eatery, which they call prasada. It was just found that it had little droplets of hashish in that. And people sit there and chant this mantra maybe 1,000,000 times continuously, close your eyes and sit there. After that they come and say that I did fly. Nobody saw them really fly. We see pictures like this, but people never fly in front of other people. Only on photographs they fly. But many people really say that they have been actually levitating, going above the city and looking down and seeing the city downwards. They could see everything. They've gone up and down. And these experiences are well known, how it happens when you have narcotic drugs, or by simply hallucination artificially created with lack of oxygen in the room. It is a simple methodology to get any kind of hallucination. And the rooms were systematically made with very less oxygen, no ventilation. And they sit for hours chanting one mantra, and you can reach any kind of hallucination without even drugs. And it's all very well. He acquired a huge wealth. He had a huge center in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Imagine in Amsterdam, such a wonderful country where human rights are respected and everybody considers, Netherlands is a wonderful place. One of the finest places where human rights are respected in the greatest ways possible. But there lived also Mahesh Yogi. And our tolerance in the Western world has been used by these people to spread a lot of ignorance. And with the money he collected from the Western world, he made huge centers in India and Brazil and in Africa, and got a lot of youngsters recruited to be flying yogis and to be trained. But of course, you'll be taught the flying only after 3 years. First 3 years, you have to prove that you are a real servant, and total submission and subjugation is the most important lesson you have to study. And how do you study it? By working free of cost in the farm. 8 to 10 hours or 12 hours or 13 hours, you would work free of cost just for some food, and you will be just thrown an evening bed somewhere, because that's the way to study subjugation. And after, most of the people, when they get an opportunity, they run off. If they survive, they will become recruitment agents, more people. So many centers all around the poor world, Latin America, India, Africa, everywhere they have made. Even in the holy city of Haridwar, there was a center with 200 students, hoping one day they would be flying, like the European disciples would do. And of course, how he managed this thing. This was a picture from Switzerland School of Flying. We found at Delhi, we got pictures how they do it. They put cameras down here. They all sit on spring mattresses and open. And when they go up, the photographs are taken. Most of them fall down with nose down, but that's not shown publicly. And these photographs with laughing flying are shown around. These are paid people inside, staff members. But this is very important, this Mahesh show is timing. Because 1960s in India, that was the time India underwent a dramatic green revolution. Because in 1950s India was very poor in the sense poverty I would measure as we didn't have enough food grains to eat. We had to wait for American ships to come for wheat. But 1960s everything changed. We had the green revolution, we had irrigation projects coming up, the electricity coming up, the communications, roads coming up, and the green revolution really happens. And we produced more wheat. If you take the growth rate of the production of wheat, it was 2,000 times more than the last 2,000 years we have made, last 1960s. India suddenly became a country with a lot of agricultural products. Now we are one of the topmost producers of agricultural products in the world. American companies queue in India to have potatoes. They make, the potato chips factories in India because it's so cheaply produced, abundantly produced that we cannot consume it. We give to our cows potato. Enormous potatoes we produce. Enormous cabbages we produce. Tomatoes we simply pulp out. There's no way to eat it. And it's so cheap in the market, you cannot imagine that with €1 you can buy in a season something like 50 kilograms of tomato in the season of it. You cannot buy it for 1 kilogram. There are only 5 kilograms unit in the market. That kind of production we have. And food grains, India is seen as a poor country by many people. But the Food Corporation of India has storage of food for the next 5 years. No other country in the world has like that. And food is given, rice and wheat are supplied with a civil supply system where anybody under the poverty line gets a card. And rice is given per kilogram for 2 rupees. That's 1/35 of €1. And you can buy up to 10 kilograms of rice and 10 kilograms of wheat. Anybody who is under poverty line. That's the country that we are in India. When this revolution started at one side, this kind of people came up and started selling a kind of different approach. And of course, 1970s came the televisions in India, and only the government television was there. And Dhirendra Brahmacharya emerged as the most powerful person on Indian television, showing the alternative way of living than the scientific way of living. Yoga as the solution for everything. He became a yoga teacher. He was a yoga teacher. Government has given a big center to him in the heart of the city. But why the yogic flying, which Mahesh Yogi was claiming, why does he do that thing? Why yogic flying is important? Because that would bring global peace. And wherever this is done, there will be peace. So if you levitate, that creates a special vibration, he said, which would bring in peace. Positive vibration everywhere, and that will bring in peace. That's what he said. But of course, 1962 we had a war with China, 64 with Pakistan, and 70 again with Pakistan to get Bangladesh out of Pakistan. So peace did not come, but he became rich. And he made this kind of gestures every day morning in televisions and became a superstar suddenly. But he did not speak about peace. He owned a gun factory himself. And he was a friend of the ruling family, the Nehru families. Nehru's daughter was the prime minister at the time. And he was a very close person because he was the personal yoga teacher of Indira Gandhi. That's why he got a big clout. I mean, there are scandalous articles about them in the media, which I don't want to repeat. It was called the Rasputin of India and all. Because I don't go into that, but I don't care. Was it he also? But he made a bad influence on Indian culture, Indian mindset, that yoga would be the solution for everything. And still more holy men would come. There is another holy man whose name is Chandra Swami. This is when he was arrested in 1995. He was a friend of the then Prime Minister, P.V. Narasimha Rao, who was in a way responsible for liberalization of India. But what an irony. Narasimha Rao was also a disciple of Satya Sai Baba. And here he has been arrested because his clout as a close friend of the Prime Minister has been used by he himself, allowing businessmen, giving an impression that he can get them licenses. And one pickle chain owner in the United States claimed that he has given a lot of money to this person, and he promised that he would get a special license to produce in India. And the Prime Minister personally touched the briefcase with the huge cash inside and blessed it. A lot of scandalous stories came, and he was arrested. But before he was arrested, he invoked the gods. Because he is a person who could invoke Lord Ganesha, the elephant-faced god. He was a special worshipper of this god. And we had a great miracle at that time happening, the Ganesh milk drinking miracle, which is perhaps the largest miracle India has ever seen. 1995, September 24th, one fine morning, all Ganesh statues started drinking milk. They became very thirsty. Thirsty in the sense that any statue of Ganesh in any temple, if you feed milk to the statue, you drink it down. But believe it or not, it was true. I've seen myself. Some television channels came to my office and said, why did you explain it? I said, I don't have an answer, let me come and see it. I went there and I found people queuing with spoonfuls of milk, and milk was disappearing from the spoon. It was true. And hundreds of people were queuing in every temple. And I didn't have an answer how it happens, but I wanted to try it, how it is happening. We have a young team of young professional scientists, and I briefed them all together. And back in our office, we started working, closed doors and started working. And on the side of my table, there is a bust of Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, whom I adore a lot, because he was a very progressive, scientific-oriented person. And it was very well known that Nehru would like to drink coffee. I thought, if Ganesh could drink milk, Nehru should drink coffee. And as they would do, I replicate the whole thing, poured some coffee over Nehru's head, and gave a little coffee in a spoon to Nehru. To my surprise, Nehru drank coffee. So I felt very interesting, the whole thing. But I look for a statue of Mahatma Gandhi, if possible. Gandhi is the father of the nation. He would not drink coffee or tea or anything. He would not even drink cow's milk. He would drink only goat's milk. And when he went to United Kingdom at that time for the discussion with the British authorities, he took a goat along with him because he wanted to be sure that his own goat is giving him. Because cow's milk is bad for him, because cow is a holy animal. Straight he was, but he was a very interesting person also, politically very powerful. But the Gandhi statue for me was another instrument of experiment there. I thought if nobody would think that Gandhi would ever drink beer. But what about giving some beer to Gandhi, I thought. So I looked for some beer and got some and poured over Gandhi. Maybe very blasphemous than the Catholic Church when I say that thing. But it was a closed door event, and gave a spoonful of beer to Gandhi. He did drink beer too. The milk miracle was clear for me and for the team we have been working, because it was a very simple phenomenon which can be explained by the breaking of surface tension of any liquid, which creates a siphoning, and the water going on the body is not visible because it's in small quantity. It's actually flowing on the body only. And when the body of the statue is wet and we put a little spoonful of milk, the two units touch together and the surface tension is broken there, the siphoning begins, and it drains down. And without you noticing that it's a psychomotor movement, you think that it's drinking milk, and you bend your hands like this, it simply drains down. It's collected down normally, and where it would go. We went to the temples and see. We found the way it was going. All the drains full of milk. So we came out with the conclusions. We summed up all the organization leaders and informed everywhere. National televisions in the evening we appeared and we replicated the whole thing. Granite statues, we have cured fed milk, it has been drinking milk. Then of course we pigmented milk with color and again show how it was going out. Of course we didn't take Nehru and Gandhi on television. That can be taken very seriously and offensive to people. But the principle was explained, and with one night we stopped the miracle. But the Ganesh milk was his innovation. Because when he would be arrested, the gods would be angry, he wanted to show. And that's why he organized the Ganesh milk miracle. And when the miracle started in several temples it started simultaneously. It was telephoned to them and asked to do it and inform all local temples. And it was he who literally did the initiation. It was later found there is a wonderful BBC documentary about that thing. The source, the origins of the milk miracle. We went behind the whole thing. When each temple saying from where they got information and ultimately reaching Haridwar, where sadhus were actually sitting and dialing telephone at 4 o'clock in the morning and calling temples. People got spoke everything. So of course for the BBC, I have interviewed him, and he himself said I have invoked the gods to show. But of course he didn't say that he knew the scientific principle. He said postgraduate in physics. Of course, but his major business is astrology, very powerful at that time. This is Ganesh milk miracle. But most of the time where the milk goes you don't see because it will be going under the flowers only. And the most powerful living god that we had, who died last year. This gentleman wrote a book. You know the first sentence? I am the god, I created this universe. In a very confident voice he writes in Telugu language. He didn't know any other language than Telugu, though he created the entire languages. And he never traveled outside India except once to Uganda to meet his friend Idi Amin, who was in power at that time. And later, head of the nations visited him there at his place, including the head of Indian nation. He had such a big cloud, really answering God. We talked to him, and he would answer himself. All the top politicians would talk to him. He would not only answer them, give them money, wealth, everything that they want. Instead, he bought a lot of political clout and amassed a lot of wealth, to the extent that his annual budget, his Satya Sai mission, charity that he made, charity was mainly to propagate his ideals, had an annual budget 3 times more that of Andhra Pradesh state where he lived. And he had an airport for himself, for the people visiting. And he made a railway station for himself, for the devotees to come. He owned a whole town, Puttaparthi. And, of course, he was fond of cricket like many of the Indians. And cricket players were his disciples. They came and played for him, but he would not go for others' cricket grounds. He made a cricket ground for himself. And the players came and played for him. And when he made his public appearances, people were in thousands. And this was when he was physically incapacitated, he could not walk at that time. Though he claimed that he would die at the age of 96 on the birthday only, he died at the age of 84. Could not control it. Several days his body was kept on a ventilation, the hope, because everybody said that he would not die, because he has predicted that I would die only on 96th year. So Then they made a lot of lunar ear collect, and then so many, eras we have. What era would fit that he would be dying at 84? Nothing was fitting, unfortunately. When lunar era would not fit, and anyway, he could not fit up this year and he died. But there were cases against him. These are people who were complaining about pedophile victims and later growing up and complaining against him. But nobody cared of such complaints. Daily Telegraph of Britain has published a Sunday article with 42 or so pedophile victims later growing up because they were children of his disciples. When they grew up, first they were excited as children, God himself having sexuality with them. And when they grew up, they understood it. Many victims did not speak it out, but they spoke it out. Many of them came out and Telegraph collected their affidavits. India Today, one of the most respected papers in India weeklies, they made a cover story with such cases. The Pioneer newspaper made a front page story about that. Not a single case against him. But after all these complaints came out in media, here on the left hand side with folding hands is Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the then Prime Minister of India. And with folded hand on the other side with a half beard like mine is the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh state where he was. And of course when he died, sitting with a turban behind in front of sight, the current Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, and sitting on the left of him is Sonia Gandhi, the widow of Rajiv Gandhi, who was the Prime Minister of India, who was also a grandson of Jawaharlal Nehru, ironically. And Sonia Gandhi, by birth, is not an Indian, she's an Italian Catholic. Again, one of the reasons why the Catholics are very powerful in India. And she's there sitting, and later this body was covered with the national flag of India. And he was given a national funeral. National holiday was declared. And of course, before that also we have seen, and sitting nearby him is APJ Abdul Kalam, the then President of India. But Abdul Kalam was not another president. He was a scientist. He was a space scientist. What is he exactly? He was a professor of aeronautical engineering, first Chancellor of Space, Science and Technology, 11th President of India, and Bharat Ratna, Gem of India. That's the highest civilian praise one would ever get in India. And he wrote a poetry on the birthday of Satya Sai Baba. He's a poet also, right? Occasionally some poetry, not very much poetry, but especially on Satya Sai Baba's birthday he has written one, which says that this solar system is so beautiful because it's blessed with the pearl that is earth, colorful and all. And this earth is so blessed because it has given birth in all the centuries we got a Satya Sai Baba. That is poetry. And not only Satya Sai Baba, other holy men like Asharam Bapu. Asharam Bapu is again very powerful. He runs a lot of schools, institutions. Very powerful connection he has, and he has been in the scene for quite some time now, 40-50 years he has been in the public scene. But recently there have been complaints that the young boys in his hostel have been disappearing and their dead bodies were found later. But after post-mortem, one strange thing that has been identified was some of their internal organs were absent, especially the liver. And some of the old texts of Indian black magic says that the liver of young boys under the age of 7 would be very good for certain black magic. Powerful businessmen wanted to eliminate their opponents, and that's exactly how it can be done with the liver of a young boy. And boys are picked up from the hostel, especially if they're from poor families. With big pandemonium in the city, parents were shouting and throwing stones at his schools and all these kind of things. But no case, nothing. There is a Prime Minister with him sitting. Another holy man who was arrested for a series of sex crimes, raping people. Any female who would go for his blessing would be physically raped. And he has raped more than 200 people, this guy, and arrested now. And this lady is known here also, the hugging saint, Amma. She has been last year in Stockholm and Finland, everywhere she was, Scandinavia, very well known here. She has been speaking in United Nations as the religious leader of a group. She comes from a backward community and a female, looks a little exciting. And she is very famous for hugging people. That's the blessing that she would give. And she has hugged more than 10 million people recently, I was told. Everywhere, you know, in Finland I heard that there was a queue of half a kilometer or something like that to be hugged by her. Once hugged by her, you are blessed. And you get a hugging of this sort. That's it. Then she calls, oh my son, I know all your problems, it's all solved. Go. Next guy comes and then starts. But now she's Amma. Amma means the mother. There's a book published by Penguin calling her the Black Madonna. And she has an autobiography, much earlier written, wherein she says herself that she was a little crazy when she was a young girl. And of course, she understood that craziness is connected with mystical experiences also. Sometimes she just felt that she should fall down and roll, and scream or beat people. Now, ex-disciples are coming out. There's a Yahoo group, namely Ex-Amma. And most of the disciples are Westerners. And they write that when they go to her place, all what you have to do is write all your properties in her name. People are willing to do it. Most of the Western disciples really do that because some of them feel so guilty that they are living in a very wealthy situation and they want to be blessed with poverty and they are willing to do it. They are willing to stay in a stinky small room and boil the potatoes and chapatis from straight gas, but meantime they will forget to continue their healthcare insurance here and lost everything practically to them. And later, one of the strong disciples came out and said that she has colon cancer and she's not looked after. And immediately her family sent a letter. This lady will take her off. She has nothing. Her house is sold and the entire money is given to her. She spent her entire life working for her. She could not get even nutritious food. And sometimes she has gone to the market to buy an egg to refill the nutrition requirements of the body. She was called a kitch by her because egg is a sin. And many people come out nowadays. And ironically, the whole thing began not with a motherly kiss. That's a very interesting aspect which recently comes out also. Because I've read books of people who have been criticizing her when she was 15, 16 years old and emerging as a local goddess. At that time, first she was taken as a crazy lady who wanted to hug all boys around. In a repressive society, I mean, if somebody wants to kiss a boy of the same age, that's normal in any society. But in a repressive society, a completely repressed society like India, that would look very strange. Because in India, if you're in a bus and a lady sits there, two seats are empty there, no guy would sit there. Because she would not like it and everybody will beat him down. And if you sit there, the lady would immediately stand up because she doesn't want to sit with the guy. That kind of a segregated atmosphere is there in the rural areas. There are separate girls' schools and boys' schools in India. Shaking a hand with an opposite sex, boy or girl, can be taken very seriously by family and can get beating back at home. That kind of a very repressed atmosphere But not in urban cities, of course, you have to say, but in rural India it exists. And she comes from a rural background, and there she wanted to hug all boys. And she became popular and notorious. And of course, later when she was a young lady, there is an author named Srini Pattathanam who wrote a book and got in trouble. He has got there to see what is this hugging, which is very interesting. And everybody is taken to a small dark room where she would hug them. And he said, the tone is not like the mother, but there is something which is very close to eroticism, is that what he felt. He felt her bosom touching him so unnaturally. But many youngsters kept on coming back and coming back. Then some people who were using her as a French person made a structure that you can come and join the group of celibates who live with her. She started living with a lot of young people. We are called the celibates. And you have to give everything that you have to be part of the celibate group. And a lot of celibate women and celibate men, and she proceeding over the whole thing, and a small cult and begins. Later, one interesting article I remember by Kushwant Singh, a very famous author in India. Kushwant Singh was the editor of Hindustan Times and Illustrated Weekly. He was an agnostic, not an atheist or anything. He went to Kerala to see this lady. He has been there to get an award. And he wrote an article in the Sunday magazine. She was at that time something like 27 or 28 years old. Already very famous at that time for this hugging. He goes there to get a hug. And after that he writes in Sunday magazine that, well, I'm convinced that she has some magical powers. I'm no more an agnostic because she has real big powers. This part of the statement from Kushwant Singh is published by these people also. The second part they don't publish. You know what he said? He said, at 86 years, in 1 minute I got an erection. You know, it speaks what it is. I mean, this article is translated into so many languages and nobody has even complained against that thing. And now this lady has a medical college which was inaugurated by the President of India. Last year, all her foreign donations were stopped by the Government of India. Why? Because during the tsunami, she collected a lot of money for helping the people. From all around the world she collected money. In her website in New Mexico, in the United States, amachi.com, there's a story that she stood on the top of the floor and found the tsunami coming. Then she saw a lot of poor fishermen folk there. She took her sari and drove off to the sea. The sari and flies and goes and touches the tsunami waves. It stops there. That's why tsunami did not affect this coast, the western coast. I write it damn seriously. Of course, tsunami was from the other side of the sea. It did not reach the western side, it was from the eastern side of India. Affected part was the eastern side. Still, on the sides of Kerala, the waves came little bit, and her own boundary wall has collapsed and 3 people died there. Because she has an ashram very close to the sea. But this money was misutilized, diverted, and taken out of the country, and she has been building up private institutions and retreat centers with this money, and her foreign donations are now stopped. She doesn't get money from India, but from Western disciples. Another holy man. He gets money from India, but by running a lot of institutions, mainly outsourced companies for Canadian and American organizations. And his name is Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, but mainly famous for a special kind of breathing, Sudarshana Kriya, which is patented, trademarked. He was a disciple and teacher under Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, got good training. You know how to start it. He started first of all, this breathing technique is established, he patented it, and if you want to breathe the way he teaches, you have to pay a fee. And you will be taught. There's a fee, monthly fee for that. And at 3 levels you can study the breathing technique. And he's very popular in India. And he's dealing with prime ministers and presidents and all. And right side sitting is L.K. Advani, the Home Minister of India. asked for minister. And on the right side of Advani sitting is Baba Ramdev. He's not a God man, but a yoga teacher, but very powerful. This gentleman owns 3 television channels. 10 years back he was on a bicycle selling Ayurvedic products. Now he owns an empire of products that are trademarked with the yogic, and mainly what he sells is an Indian version of Viagra, telling that it has a lot of powers. It's sold mainly through internet, and he has a lot of money, and recently he purchased an island in Scotland. And this guy who laughs so awkward. And this is one of his television programs, and this is how he addresses people. He has remedies for everything. He's known as the Remedy Baba. So if you put your fingers like this and concentrate every day morning, you will not get aged, please. It says it with confidence. And you go to any park in New Delhi in the morning for a morning walk, you can see a lot of people who are above middle age sitting and concentrating like this. Or for youngsters, if they get grey or something like that, they have to rub and rub like this. Because then certain energies are produced that will stop greying. And you can see a lot of people above 35 years in the bus or anywhere you go, they rub and rub so constantly all the time. Everywhere you can see in India. And he teaches a special way of breathing to prolong their life. You see everywhere people try to do it. Very powerful people. And when the swine flu was spreading in India, H1N1 virus, the government was trying to educate people how to protect yourself, how to avoid communication, how to wear if you sneeze, you should protect and all. Systematic education. Schools were closed, children were taught how to do it. This guy, in one of his television channels, come out and say that one need not worry about this thing. If you chew a special herbal Ayurvedic leaf and chant a special mantra, you are protected. How irresponsible this statement is. Another statement that he made is with yoga he can protect people from contaminating HIV virus. And seriously, or stop cancer spreading. How irresponsible. People can simply die out of the whole thing. But the next day, instead of arresting him, if I were in charge, I would get him arrested. The Delhi government distributes this leaf and requesting him to repeat this mantra for people to, chant while chewing this leaf. Of course, this is an advertisement of the special yoga sessions in the newly purchased island of Scotland where this guy owns. But smaller people, but very influential as well. Violet Baba. He meditates for global peace again. All these people want to, nothing smaller than global peace. He goes under the earth, buried himself, and sit there for 5 days and make special meditation for global peace. Or remain underwater without breathing for 4 days. And global peace is guaranteed. But in one such sessions in 1994, one of my first, I was coming up as a fighter against these kind of things, popular at that time, not very well known like now. When he claimed that he would be sitting underwater and doing a meditation which is known as Jala Samadhi. Samadhi means half Dutch position. Under the water, he has made a big 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet room kind of thing in the center of a park, city park, publicly owned. He goes down and the whole area is covered with a tarpaulin at the top. Then water was pumped in so that he remains in water. But the tarpaulin was never shown and nobody was shown whether he actually sits in water or water will go somewhere else. I looked for the constructors of this little place. They found a mason who actually worked on that thing. Found that there is a little hole there down and you can connect the pipe is dug down and you can just screw it up and the water will not enter here and simply goes out somewhere and connect it to the drains. And When you want, you can close it so that water can be filled up also. Simple mechanism. I knew what was it. I came out in the media. I said that I'm sure that he is not sitting underwater. He must be reading newspapers and magazines and enjoying his stay there. Made a sarcastic joke. So, and I wanted that this to be opened and shown that he actually sits underwater. I was not allowed to. But 4 or 5 days later, when he was opening this thing, before that, again water was pumped in, the underwater passage is closed and water was filled in, and he came out in the water. Straightly in full water, he comes up to the stage and makes a public statement telling that there are people who criticize me. I knew it from my mental power. And they do not know that the worm would remain in the uterus for 9 months in water. It would not die. When they say this thing, they are challenging the motherhood. There is one guy whose name is Sanal Edamaruku who criticized me. Let him go to his mother and ask her whether he remains there with water or without water. But I was surprised with the name Sanal Edamaruku. My name is Sanal Edamaruku. And then I suddenly remember Times of India. I was not popular at that time. Published my name with a spelling mistake, Sanal Edamaruku. This guy was actually reading Times of India down there and got the wrong spelling. Of course, I made jokes with the other journalists along with this. Then I suddenly found that the hose connection has gone and the water drum went down. And I asked all journalists, take photographs, the water is going down, that's how you say it. He saw it from the podium. He said, there is the rationalist, kill him. He shouted in Hindi. And suddenly I heard the sound, people were looking for the rationalist, and simply sat down and I sneaked out through the crowd. And I went out without anybody noticing. My driver was waiting with an open door for my car. I just sat in the car and he drove off. Went to the press club, made a press conference. And I invited him to the press conference instead. Said that I would like to really do this magic in the press club of India, wherein I would provide a glass chamber filled with water, and he need not sit 4 days of world peace. Just 30 minutes would be sufficient. If he can do it, that I would welcome that thing. But after the meeting, he just disappeared to Haridwar, the holy city, and never came to Delhi. Just disappeared from the scene. But later we caught him again at Haridwar. There he claimed that he was sitting under earth. Then he caught him there and found that the top was removed. This time he was not buried under earth, but he was made a room and then put a corrugated sheet, metallic sheet over that thing, and put some mud over that thing, and some plants were cultivated, and claimed that he was actually buried down sitting there. We went there with television people and opened this thing and found him sitting like this. He's over, finished. But
do you want to have questions afterwards, or can I ask a question now?
Should I just complete it just over another 10 minutes? And then it's easy because there is a rounding up. This gentleman is Prahlad Jani. He's like a hydra. You end up one person and then another guy it comes out. Prahlad Jani became very popular last year because he claimed that he does not eat food or drink water, not now, but for the last 70 years. Something from the end of or beginning of break of Second World War to stop eating and drinking water. Nothing happens, he survives. And some people took it up serious, and there was a test to see how he does it. Not if he does it, but how he does it. And we have asked for permission to be in the team, and we are not allowed. But of course we have our ways to reach out the facts. We found that the urine in the bladder was there in the first test, and then in the test it has vanished. There was in the stool there was gas certificate, it is vanishing, and of course the weight varies. There is suspicious sugar entries, and the entries vanished. And the doctor, we came out that there was urine. What happened? It has vanished. So they said, the doctor, who was a neurosurgeon, he says that he has recycled into his body. Do you know that technique that people can recycle urine in the body? That's what physicians say. And I challenged him in a television program, this will again, next year, last year, again this test was given. This time a lot of money was given to him, the government of India. And this lieutenant gentleman has been instrumental in collecting the money from the government. The right-hand guy is the chief of Indian Defense Research Institute, gave him $8 million plus US dollars worth money to study about this thing. Why? Because if this technique is studied well, there are several thousands and thousands of Indian soldiers on difficult terrains in the border, in the Himalayas, and food dropping is very, very expensive. And if they can be taught this technique, it's very cheap. And space scientists everywhere in the world, astronauts, when they go up, water and food is a difficult task to take. That's the most expensive thing. So they should be taught about this technique. So we would study this thing and sell to the world this technique. That's why this money was given. And of course this comes from a theory of Breatharianism. And this guy was one of the first promoters of this idea that people can survive with sunlight. And of course a young rationalist later found him in a train, drinking tea and eating his little sandwich, and photographed him and brought him complete expose. When I was in hiding last March, April, May months, I was in hiding. At that time there was a holy man appeared in Delhi. He knew the mechanism of how holy men would work. He advertised in 43 television channels, paid advertisements, including Discovery and Science channels. And when you can pay money online, 2,000 rupees to be in his audience. And then when people reach there, he would give the blessing. The blessing is very simple. He would ask you, what's your problem? He would say that, oh, my business was very bad. Last 1 year I'm losing a lot of money. Okay, what belt you wear? It's white, it's a black color or brown color? Brown color. Go and change it. Henceforth, we are a different color. Probably result. You're blessed. Go. Next guy. Or, have you ever gone to India? There's a very interesting snack named samosa, very popular in India. One lady says that I'm not conceiving. My age is over 15 years and not conceiving. Yes, do you eat samosas? As if samosas are the reason how you conceive. She says, yes. What chutney you use along with that? The red one or the green one? She says, always the red one. Okay, change it periodically and try the green one occasionally. You'll get conceived. And if any business succeed or you win the examination or anything, people are very, very happy. They were advance booking for 2 years for him. He collected money to the tune in 3 months that he could buy with excess money a chain of hotels. And of course was on a daily basis collecting more than 8 billion rupees from his disciples in his accounts. And while I was in hiding, I was attending television programs exposing this guy. And before escaping from India, I found that his daily collection has gone down from 8 million rupees to around 3,000 rupees per day. Stop him. Because we brought evidences and cases and publicly exposed him, brought in a lot of people and exposed him. And of course, this guy had another technique also. When somebody says that, oh, my business was in trouble, most of the time businesses get some recession and it comes down cycles. Or problems in some work and then it gets repaired by itself. And people believe that that's a blessing. And then, of course, once you believe that it's his blessing, from that day onwards, you have to give him 1/10 of your entire earning to his private account, deposit it by cash. And if you do not do that, the blessing will be reversed. So his money started, like a pyramid, started increasing like anything. Now he's under scrutiny. This is the last goddess and coach, because as per Hindu belief, there are 10 incarnations. And he's the 10th incarnation, Kalki, he says.
What incarnation of who?
Vishnu. Vishnu has several incarnations and Krishna was the last one, and he's Kalki, he says. And he has come to end up the board now. But tantrics exist. Would say that people can be cured with this kind of things. chant on the children and to immunize them. Parents bring their children. We counter it on television programs, but the politicians would live programs said that we don't interfere because it's faith and religion. Of course, we got him arrested. Or the Indian holy men, the sadhus, who run around nude because if they are part of a great tradition and allowed to run like that, this Kumbh Mela, they are waiting for this thing. Or people like this, the psychopaths, the charlatans, or the angry guys who would kill the opponents because of religious fury, or people dress up like Hanuman and collect money. These people are everywhere. Or in burial grounds, you find this kind of people with the burning. And people give their own children for sacrifice. Sadhus. This is the other India. So we started a campaign in 1995 to counter this thing. It started in a big way in 1995. We went in villages and villages, thousands of villages. 1,080 villages we covered, actually practically 1,080 villages in 100 districts, and I led it. That was my first major campaign. You can see it on YouTube now. Channel 4 has come all the way to India, traveled with us for 1 month and made a documentary named it Guru Busters. It's the post of Guru Busters. It's a young rationalist replicating the Guru tricks. We trained a lot of them, but not only in streets in 1995, but later, of course, in many other places where firewalking, we show the firewalking and explain what it is. Or later we got a little more better status. The National Science Center invited me to be a resource person, where I would teach every year 300 students the tricks behind the holy man, levitating. So these are simple techniques like any small magician can do. But we train children, but ask them to go and teach 10 more children, so that 2,000 students are equipped with that. And the children educators are invited for such similar programs, and the public campaigns are getting international coverage. We still do another thing which is known as the rationalist reality theatre. You know the famous cognitive dissonance theory. The moment your blind belief is countered with reason, you have a blockage against that thing. No amount of reasoning would work. Suppose you believe that the earth will end on a particular day, and when it does not end on that day, you don't come out of that thing. Rather, you will defend so vehemently, like a fanatic, and block completely yourself. And the more unreasonable it is, more evidence is coming against it, the more powerfully you defend against it. That is known as cognitive dissonance. We found a mechanism to come out of that, because reasoning would not work. We call ourselves rationalists, but I know that reasoning is not sufficient to help people to come out. They need a breaking from the cognitive dissonance. It's a clear, sharp, cut psychology. And we found that what we do is here, we send a man as a holy man in villages, dress up like a holy man, replicate everything that a holy man would do. And at the end of the day, when everybody is willing to give everything, gold, wealth, everything, young boy or gold, go and challenge, show that whatever he did was replicable, people are in complete confusion, that he removes his wig and say that, well, I'm not a holy man. You know, that moment, the fear is taken off, there's a laughter. That's the moment when cognitive dissonance breaks. The fear is off. Once the fear is off, you don't no more blindly defend yourself. You're open for understanding. This works so well. The Indian psychologists and psychiatrists have appreciated us these methods to take out fear from people. And this is working so well, and because we are very trained psychologists and all in our team. I myself participate even now. Though I have trained hundreds and hundreds of people to replicate this thing, I still find it interesting, and occasionally I still participate in such things. But also in television programs. There's a very famous television program. I attend on an average 200 television programs a year. Last 4 or 5 years I do that thing. Sometimes these get very interesting, that this is the holy man who claimed that he would kill anybody with his magical powers, with a little wheat dough, and you touch it and it strangulates and the guy would die. It was a live television program. It was very difficult to stop it, because millions of people were seeing it. I said, okay, if it's correct, just kill me. This moment, try it. I provoked in such a way that he started chanting mantras to kill me. Tried for some time, no, it did not work. The time was extended. The channel announced breaking news, will rationally survive or die. Continue for 3 hours, and I don't die, and At the end of the day, he says that this guy is protected by some other gods, supreme gods. I said, I'm an atheist. Okay, then he asked me to come for an ultimate death ritual in the night, and where he would bring a lot of tantrics and everything, and then he would put a lot of mustard in fire and put my dove, stab, kill and everything, and I would die at the end of it. And before that I get crazy and fall unconscious. He tries it. It's a long program, 4 hours is summarized to 12 minutes in 3 units for 4 minutes, available on YouTube. Just type Tantra Challenge and you get it. I don't have to speak about it, but it's a wonderful program, but which got the highest ever viewership in the television history. 54% of the national viewership on one program. That's a record. The next lot comes 18%. That is the highest ever record in the television history. One night I became a star. But of course, at this part of the story was interesting. He fails, it doesn't work. He goes for a knife. Bring a knife. So I said, come on, now I try to make my body language so accessible to people. I make with jokes and laugh and all. Most powerful weapon, I always thought that laughing is always a good weapon. So I said that that's a conventional way of killing. Why don't you use Tantra? I asked him. So he tries with the knife in front of my eyes and all, but nothing works. This was the ultimate ceremony, and he tries. Nothing works. Recently, but that's all success stories. Here is also another success story. This was in Mumbai, March this year. This crucifix started releasing water from its feet. Suddenly water started coming from the feet and nobody knew how it was. And of course a television program begins and discussions, and the church says that it's a miracle. Water is distributed and people who drink the water claims that their pains are gone and their ailments are off, and it's holy water, the church announces. The bishop requests for a miracle status for this thing. And I emerged there. First I explained this thing on a television program, and on 10th of March I go to this place and study it. What I found was interesting. Behind this was a wall which was damp, wet. When I reached there, the prayer was on. After the prayer, I got time to study. And I found that the adjacent wall also was wet. And of course, behind that I found, some meters back, there was a toilet. It was not very clean and leaky. There was a tank, again was leaky. And there was a drainage line which was just going down before the statue and going down the earth. And I opened here, and I found clogged, dirty water fully inside. And I understood what was happening. I went outside, I found that there was a nail between the feet and the cross, and the water, when it is blocked and it cannot go further forward, it looks for poles to climb up. That's why we have damped walls anywhere. So this, everywhere it was wet, behind and all, but this was trapped into this thing also. It had no way to come out, and this hole with the nail was an outlet, and it drained through that and fell down, and I touched the nail there and smelled it. It was stinky. When it was opened, the smell was unbearable because it was dirty toilet water of 10 days. And that's what water, and this water, when I touched this thing and smelled it, I had to wash my hand. I was not happy, and I used sanitizers at least 10 times. Still I was not happy. It was stinky of that sort, and that's the water they gave us, holy water. And I found it. I knew what it was. And in an evening television program I explained it. The church was not very happy. There were 10 people from, 5 people from the church in the program. First for 10 minutes I get an opportunity to explain it. Then of course the bishop himself comes in the program. There's a heated argument going on. And in the program they say that you have insulted our religion. What did I do? I explained this miracle, and the miracle was over. On a day, nearly 1,000 people were visiting this crucifix. And 5 sessions of prayer of around 300 people. And that's all over. With my explanation, the next day the miracle was over. Nobody was visiting anymore the place. And I got 17 cases against me, different police stations. 14 were rejected outright by the police officers, and 2 or 3 were taken. And they used a law which is not meant for this thing, something else. The Article 295A which is a blasphemy law in India, established in 1860 by the Britishers, before any kind of Hindu-Muslim conflict emerged at all. There was no history of any Hindu-Muslim conflict at the time. That was a British law against the growing critics of religion at that time. And Britain has taken off this law in 1930s. India and Pakistan continued. In Pakistan, this calls for death penalty. India, 3 years rigorous imprisonment. Two other cases like this, cognitive and non-bailable. One is treason, the other is murder. Cognitive means they don't need an arrest warrant to arrest me. Police, once recorded such a case, does not need an arrest warrant. They need not go to a court of law. The officer, if he is satisfied, he can just send anybody to arrest me. It's non-bailable. I won't get a bail unless explicitly the court decides to give me a bail. My lawyers said, go for an anticipatory bail. I go for an anticipatory bail. To my surprise, a battery of lawyers come from the church and advise the lawyers on the side. On technical grounds, my anticipatory bail is rejected because this was in Mumbai and I should have applied in Mumbai, not in Delhi. Precedents say that I can apply in my place of residence. Law also says. I went in hiding, exposed other guys from hiding place. My lawyers go to Mumbai, file an anticipatory bail there. Well, there, after 4 or 5 days of hearing, the court says, go to a lower court and try. If you don't get, come back again to us. Understood what it means? Because they are pressed to do certain things which would give them an ample opportunity to arrest me. Once I'm arrested, my application for anticipatory bail is gone. Because there is no anticipation, it has happened. So technically there is no anticipatory bail possible. So which means I would be in prison without a trial and without a case. They may not even go for a case. A case is registered, but it may not reach a court of law. And I can be up to 3 years in jail without trial. And because 3 years, once it passes, I have a relief. I can say that if I am convicted, I will get 3 years only. And as an under trial, I have crossed 3 years, please release me. I can fight for another 1 or 2 years to get a relief. If I am allowed, I can go out. Of course, some of the blogs of these fanatic groups who complained against me discuss other things. Comments in the bishop was very angry, and he should not have hurt the sentiments of the bishop mainly, because he called him Mr. Bishop. That is true, in fact. When the bishop, I didn't know his name. When he said something, he said, it's inexplicable. I said, Mr. Bishop, you're wrong. It's explainable. It's a very polite sentence. The world's most powerful army, American army, is controlled by the Supreme Commander, the American President. He can be called by anybody as Mr. President. And if this guy who runs a small church there cannot be called Mr. Bishop, what's wrong? I do not know. It's not my business. Anyway, cases are there, and the blogs discuss about paying some of the co-prisoner the first night itself to go done away with him. He should be scot-free. Media is supporting him, everybody is supporting him, so we should see that a co-prisoner who would kill him would get paid for the rest of his life. That was the discussion going on. I understood what was happening, and that night I leave India. That's why I'm here. But I don't sit idle here. I travel around, speak to people. Last week I've been in Ireland, exposing another miracle. The Virgin Mary moving there. I put up a laser point on her with a tripod and watch for 2 hours and establish that it's not moving. I do it. I keep on doing it. Also, I talk with the senators in Ireland who is fighting against a blasphemy law which came there 2 years back, and they are writing for me to the Indian government, and we had discussions over a dinner how to fight against the blasphemy law in Ireland, which is shown by Pakistan as an example of a modern civilized nation having a blasphemy law. Many of our countries in Europe still have blasphemy laws, so it's not used. But there is an effort going on from the Islamic countries to establish a universal blasphemy law that nobody can criticize any of their prophets or holy men so which could be very, very dangerous for free speech. And Britain index for, on censorship has organized a meeting for me, and that was the organization that defended Rushdie. So I've been in Berlin, and now I'm in Finland. I'm here, and now I'm back 2-3 days later in Finland, and then I'll be going to Spain. Before that, I've been traveling in Poland, and went to the birthplace of John Paul II, and commented on his famous statement in India, which also provoked the Catholic Church. John Paul II came to India 2 years back, and in a huge public meeting he said, the first millennium we have harvested faith in Europe. Second millennium we harvested faith in the Americas and Africa. Third millennium we will harvest faith in Asia and India. I commented on that thing in another channel, telling that we would stop it, we would not allow it, and we will defend ourselves against it with the most powerful weapon that I know, which is known as common sense. Thank you.
I'm sure there are many questions now, so shall we give the floor to the audience? Just a show of hands who wants to ask questions? Yes.
Yes, I was wondering about your opinion on blasphemy laws in general. Do you think there has been a historical a time in the past where those laws were needed and they're not needed anymore, or do you think that the laws, the blasphemy laws, are all bad?
It was needed by a certain group of people to defend the belief system, which they could not defend otherwise. That's why opponents were pushed down. The laws were always not, for example, if anybody criticizes any worldview, if that could be defended with dialogue. We have a great tradition of dialogue coming from Greek or from India. Any faith that is challenged can be countered with a dialogue. But blasphemy laws does not allow dialogue, but it thumbs you down. That's how the critics were pushed down all through centuries. So all blasphemy laws are stopping dialogue, stopping free speech. Therefore, I feel that it has been used as an instrument of pushing down people. We came out through not only enlightenment, but democracy and free speech in the modern world. And it's time, we made historically human race has made a lot of mistakes. This is one of the mistakes that we had. It's time that we have to correct it.
I was curious about that holy man who buried himself in pits and claimed to be sitting underwater. What was that supposed to accomplish?
What would he get?
Yes, why would it be a good idea to sit underwater for several days?
Because many of the Indian traditions, the holy books, speak about, you do strange things and continuously you get extraordinary powers. He wanted to convince that he had powers. And remaining in water without getting killed in that way shows that you have powers. For example, you go to Haridwar, you see holy men standing like this without moving for years, and they get completely damaged by that process. They think that they attain something. But read any Hindu mythological book. People sitting in strange positions and making meditations or sadhana, that the gods are afraid. Because now he is attaining power. Gods would set what you call a honey trap, normally. Set a beautiful lady to break his meditation, dance in front of him, and then he's attracted and his meditation is broken. Such stories are so popular. So you attain more powers, and he wants to sell his power. He sells his capacities, and mainly businessmen are the kind of these people.
So it was sort of a marketing thing that
yes.
I'm going to show to you people that I am indeed a holy man. I'm going to sit underwater for 5 days.
Yes. But he actually doesn't sit. He knows that he's not sitting in water. It's a gimmick to convince people that he could sit in water. Because once he proves that thing, he's a holy man really. So he sells his powers. Many businessmen are payers to these people, not to get success in the business, but to destroy the enemy. Shatru Samhara, destruction of any enemy, is one of the key things in Tantric.
Are there still water dripping out of the toe? Are there still water dripping out?
No, no.
The toe?
No,
they accept that.
The next day they open the cloak water. Somebody has opened it immediately, and the water has drained out, and the miracle stopped, and people stopped coming.
But that was done by somebody, not by any representative.
I'm sure that, you know, because of this dirty water shown in the picture, before journalists come, they wanted to remove the whole dirty water. Maybe they called a plumber.
Did anyone get seriously ill from drinking the water?
In fact, you know, such things are very dangerous.
Yes, I understand it.
But here, you know, I know another case which is still harder. In Mumbai, some 4 years back, seawater turned sweet near a Muslim dargah. It happens everywhere, not only in Catholic Church. This was in front of a Muslim burial place. Some boys found that the water is not more sour but sweet, slightly sweet, and this taste has gone. And they announced it, and immediately it was announced as a miracle. And then somebody said that this is a charisma of Allah, Allah's great miracle now immediately. And people started collecting in this beach and collect the water in bottles and take it home and all. And I've been asked in the night itself, people woke me up from the televisions and said that, explain what happened. I said, I don't have an answer, don't come to me all the time like this. I'm not because I have to study, I'm not a holy man, there's answer for everything. So I would like to have a sample of this water, sent to a laboratory, get analysis of that thing, then I would like to get result on it. I cannot speak otherwise. I would only advise morning television programs, I said, don't drink this water, because we do not know what it is. It could be industrial waste, it could be emissions from the ground, it could be anything. And of course, what was sent for chemical analysis and found that the coliform bacteria presence was 8 million times more than human tolerance. You know what it was? There was a river named Methi River, which was 5-6 kilometers away. An old river where small cities were dumping their toilet lines into this thing, which is going to the off-sea. There was no population there. But now it's all being cleansed, you know, so seriously we are stopping these things. But still it's happening. In the suburb towns were doing this thing. And through some water current change because of the monsoons, the dump water in the off-sea came to the coastal area, and that was it. And now we know the taste of decayed human excretion. It must be slightly sweet, as people claimed. And at least 2,000 people were admitted with diarrhea. It happens.
Makes sense.
Do you have any ideas or theory about the psychology of these holy persons? I mean, in a sense they are cheating, but do you think they want to believe that they are holy themselves? Or
why do they do it, or why do people accept it?
Do they believe themselves? Yeah, so my question is, do they believe themselves that they are holy? I mean, they know that they are cheating, but maybe they also think that they are holy, so, I mean, it's okay to cheat.
But that's a very interesting question. You know, the people there are some people think that they have holy powers, mentally alien people. For example, if I have schizophrenia, I would think that there's a Holy Ghost in me. Maybe a Holy Spirit in me and speaking to other people. I would believe that. I would feel that God is speaking to me and giving me commands. Such people exist, but if they are in the control of some other people who would manage them with the French person, they are successful. But some of these people know very well that they are not holy, and they do trick to cheat people. They are clear cheats. Some are psychopaths, some are ill people who are used by other people. Some are clear fraudsters and tricksters. And a third category, I would still say that there are other category of holy men or ascetics who think that that's a good way of life. They simply don't eat and less food, and they think that simple living and high thinking is good. I don't say that everybody who practice a kind of life like this, all are damaging people. Some good gurus are also there, like Swami Vivekananda. Vivekananda was a highly educated young man. He was a Hindu, a kind of holy man, but he never did a miracle. He said miracles don't happen. We have to make miracles happen in our life by studying. And then he said that stars, if they influence my day-to-day life, I would command these stars to go away from me. Such a holy man also existed. Also, Vivekananda is one of the most revered Hindu leaders who made Hinduism the modern map of India. He said, if I am hungry and I have only cow's meat, I would eat it because I have to survive. And another part he says that if I say a criminal and an atheist, I will embrace the atheist and take his help to fight the criminal. So he was also a Hindu ascetic. I have no problem with him. Or Narayana Guru, another revered saint in southern India, who advocated caste system. The biggest sin was caste system. Some people try to correct their own religion by being a holy man, but their number is too less. Out of 1,000 there are 1 or 2 only. Majority of the people are of this variety, either psychopaths or simple fraudsters. And why people believe, that's another interesting question, because I would always feel that the new emergence of dependence of these people come from the transforming society of India. Because any society, when it is transforming very fast, there's a sense of insecurity. India is transforming very fast from 1960s. That's exactly the time we see the emergence of the holy man. In a transforming society, the speed of transformation is too high sometimes. Many people feel so insecure, they need safety belts. And they cling on some imaginary safety belts. And ready-made safety belts are provided by these people.
Can I ask, are they always operating within Hinduism, or are there Muslim holy men and Jainist holy men and other denominations?
Holy men are now in not only now, in historically also we see holy men in all cults in India, including Christianity. There are so many holy men, and now other religions, because Hindus have a lot of holy men by the tradition, all the books are speaking about holy men and about their capacities. Now the other religions are competing with them to bring their own branded holy men to convince more people. One of the arguments these people, when I had in the discussion, that Hindus have Ganges water as holy water. Why don't you criticize that? I said, I don't consider that as holy water. But when we have a holy water, why do you criticize? You are selective. Which means they want to compete with Ganges water, which is considered holy.
The river water.
Yeah. River, that's also taken very holy. If you are ill, river water brought from Ganges in far off places and given to people, thinking that that will cure you. And many people want to die having drops of Ganges water in their mouth.
And then they are placed in that river.
And of course, when you die, many people wish that the body, before completely burnt, pushed to the river. And that's why when you go to Allahabad, if you take a holy dip there, you get a decayed hand sometimes.
I was curious about Sri Ravi Shankar. It's not the same Ravi Shankar, the famous...
No, absolutely not. Pandit Ravi Shankar is a very different person. He's not a holy man.
Yeah.
He's a kind of holy man with his instrument. I would like to salute him, no problem.
All right.
Is this like being named John Smith?
It's a name. You cannot compare these two people. Pandit Ravi Shankar is one of the maestros that we have. And he has been making jokes about this holy man on occasion.
Well, are we happy?
We are happy.
Everybody's happy? Well then, the final big hand for Sanal Edamaruku.